The film starts off evolved with an commercial from a futuristic vehicle emblem named Monolith. The presenter from the commercial states that the automobile is offered because the most secure vehicle with inside the global and has some of specific protection functions. He claims that the automobile is extraordinarily contemporary day and has numerous functions like unbreakable glass, sturdy tires, inflexible frame and lots of greater to hold its riders secure from each feasible robbery, and harm. An AI related to the cell smartphone app is used to govern all of the functions whilst being with inside the vehicle. A digital assistant referred to as Lilith allows to have interaction with the person interface of the automobile with inside. The subsequent scene, we see a mom wearing her child with inside the equal AI vehicle to his granny's domestic. Whilst speaking to the AI assistant Lilith, we get to realize that the mom's call is Sandra and her 12 months vintage son is David, her husband. Carl is a pilot who couldn't be a part of them because of his busy schedule. The automobile is so superior that it could even stumble on the burden of the passengers with inside the automobile. Later Carl calls them and informs them that he's on the primary airport after his responsibility and misses them a lot. Simply then a person knocks at the door and Carol says his accurate buy and leaves. Meanwhile David begins a evolved turning into fussy, so Sandra palms him her Telecell smartphone to hold him occupied. Calm down David and test your DMS. After a while Sandra takes a halt on the Fuller Line station at the aspect of the street. She then takes David with inside the washroom and modifications his diapers whilst a few ladies are visible laughing. The Fuller Line station additionally has a grocery store in which Sandra buys her son his preferred snacks. Whilst paying on the counter, Sandra notices a person attempting to interrupt into her vehicle out of doors. As opposed to being concerned, she simply takes out her Telecell smartphone and locks the automobile. The use of the clever app. As Sandra is busy examining the state of affairs, she does not even observe that David has been separated. After she realizes that David is lost, she screams and searches for him across the grocery store. She rushes out of doors or even calls a stranger, assuming that David is with him. She appears to be absolutely freaked out till she reveals David with the equal 3 women whom she met in advance on the washroom. Sandra at once places David into her vehicle and turns on the vault mode function. This disengages her from what is taking place out of doors and she or he sooner or later breathes a sigh of alleviation. After leaving the Fuller Line station, Sandra nevertheless has a protracted distance to pressure till they attain her mom-in-law's residence. Because of the lengthy ride, Sandra feels bored and makes a decision to name her early life buddy Jessa to test on her. Jessa gets the decision and informs her that she is close to the primary airport at a lodge. She even tells that she has been staying on the lodge with Carol. Sandra is devastated on the revelation of her buddy having an affair together along with her husband. She turns into so annoyed that she does now no longer even trouble to go into her mom-in-law's residence. She maintains calling Carol, however he does not select out up and pretends to be busy, bored to death with the lies. Sandra makes a decision to take topics into her very own palms and for this reason units her adventure to discover Carl on the primary airport in La. On her manner, a board indicates that the space to La is set 320 miles. After some time, Lilith, the clever AI, mentions that a severe twist of fate has taken region on the principal highway for you to sluggish them down. She then indicates Sandra take the skip avenue for you to keep them quite a few time. However, the AI additionally mentions that the foundation is abandoned and slightly has any passengers. Sandra, who's adamant on confronting her husband, is now no longer supposed to times and takes the opportunity path. Later it receives darkish and Sandra begins a evolve to sense problem in using the automobile. The fog at the manor additionally intensifies, which impacts her imaginative and prescient of the street in the front of her. On her manor she reveals no human settlements or another vehicles. However, she reveals an electrical substation placed within inside the center of nowhere. She glances over the region, however quickly drives away. The region is so abandoned that the simplest beings gift there are wild animals. Abruptly affrighted, and Sandra loses her consciousness and crashes right into a deer, which becomes seeking to go the street due to the collision. David begins a evolved crying and prefer always. Sandra palms over her Telecell smartphone to calm him down. Here David, capture up for your dank mem. She then at once receives out to test at the animal, however it seems to be nearly dead. The deer is caught beneath the front part of the automobile and due to it Sandra is not able to transport her vehicle beforehand. As Sandra is attempting to determine out the state of affairs, she forgets that she has left David by myself with inside the vehicle. Meanwhile, as David is gambling with the mobile cell smartphone, he by chance opens the AI vehicle app. He moved his finger across the opened app, and without Sandra's observe, turns on the vault function of the automobile. This selection protects the passengers internal from all varieties of disturbances and danger. Sandra realizes the gravity of the state of affairs and attempts her exceptional to open the door. However, it is already too overdue as Sandra is locked out of doors the automobile. She attempts her exceptional to make the 12 months vintage David transfer off the vault mode. However, he does not apprehend a phrase and surely maintains on gambling with the telecell smartphone. Later, Sandra panics and begins a fevold shouting on the little child, which startles him, and he drops the telecell smartphone below his seat. Here Sandra receives to realize that the monolith vehicle's functions aren't simply in commercial. However, it additionally plays in reality. Even if Sandra attempts to interrupt the glass with a rock, now no longer a unmarried scratch may be visible at the window glass after have long gone with the Tesla. Seeing all her efforts move in vain, Sandra makes a decision to looking for different alternatives. She starts a fevold on foot, return to the electric substation, which she observed earlier. Then after a few on foot she reaches a station, jumps over the fence and cries for assist. However, she receives no reaction and the station appears to be empty without a people gift. On the moment after this, Sandra enters one of the rooms and reveals a few essential gadgets internal. She takes a flashlight to apply at night time and a massive wrench to assist her smash the glass of the locked vehicle. Simply as she leaves the substation, she notices a wild animal following her as Sandra rushes. Returned, a coyote assaults her, so she climbs onto the roof of the automobile regardless of her exceptional efforts to scare off the animal. It stays unfazed. In her ultimate ditch strife, Sandra begins a fevold banging the automobile with the wrench and an alarm begins a fevold blaring, which sooner or later makes the coyote retreat. Simply then Sandra notices David having problems respiratory. Regardless of the state of affairs, she manages to calm David and he sooner or later begins a fevold respiratory and shortly falls asleep. After a chunk of questioning, Sandra too turns into worn out and falls asleep at the bonnet of the automobile. The subsequent day, Sandra wakes up while the solar is already vivid. She then at once rushes to test David's circumstance with inside the vehicle. She reveals her infant vulnerable and feeble due to his hungry and dehydration. One of the functions of the automobile additionally shows the temperature of the environment, which seemed like growing slowly. The circumstances takes place to Sandra because the region is absolutely isolated without a human beings round. Sandra then makes a decision to looking for assist and follows the street. Regardless of being significantly dehydrated, she proceeds to stroll the lengthy adventure. She additionally is aware of the dangers of leaving David by myself with inside the overheated vehicle. However, she has no preference to looking for assist. Happily, she comes throughout a river in which she beverages and cleans herself. After gaining a few respite, she maintains her adventure and encounters steep hills alongside the direction. After on foot numerous miles, Sandra sooner or later comes throughout an vintage airfield in which she discovers a jet. Meanwhile, the temperature within inside the monolithic vehicle rises up, inflicting it to immediately begin the emergency cooling fan. After achieving the deserted jet, Sandra enters and observed a few alcoholic beverages, a gallon of Fueline into spare aircraft tires. She consumes a few alcohol and at once gathers the essential gadgets. After that, Sandra makes use of the Fueline to burn the 2 tires in hopes of attracting assist. She then takes the gallon and fills it with the river water. Slowly Sandra walks return to the region in which she left David with inside the subsequent scene. Sandra hurries to the automobile and reveals David all weak and turning red. She attempts calling out to him. However, David does now no longer solution or circulate. The temperature within inside the vehicle has expanded appreciably, and the emergency cooling enthusiasts have come to be ineffective. Seeing the kingdom of her son, Sandra at once climbs the roof and pours the water she introduced from the river. However, all her efforts move into vain. Questioning that her infant must die with inside the excessive tech automobile, she once more begins a fevold to hit the automobile window with the wrench. However, it simply wastes her strength. Later, Sandra attempts to milder hearth place out of doors the automobile in hopes that the sensors will stumble on the smoke and open. However, none of this happens. Alternatively, the emergency Cooling enthusiasts prevent going for walks to save you the smoke from getting into internal fatigue. Sandra falls to the floor and has her imaginative and prescient of her and Carol traveling the scene of the twist of fate. 12 months later there, she realizes her errors and nevertheless blames Carol for David's dying. After a while she wakes as much as a noise and reveals all of it to be her dream. To make the state of affairs worse, the coyote from Ultimate Nighttime once more seems in the front of her. Sandra makes a decision to cover from it and attempts to climb at the roof of the automobile. However, because the automobile's temperature is extraordinarily excessive, she cannot live there and alternatively slides beneath the automobile there. The coyote bites her leg and that is. Well, Sandra realizes that it's father deer that the coyote is after as quickly because the coyote drags the deer out the automobile. Begins a evolved rolling backwards. The deer become the purpose that the automobile become held in function. Sandra at once receives out from below the automobile and attempts to prevent it from sliding. Regardless of her exceptional efforts, the automobile maintains to roll, edging towards a fall. However, a small chew of rock obstructs the automobile and it sooner or later stops. As Sandra stares from the cliff, she recollects the cool animated film she noticed in advance on the Fuller Line station in which the diamond become received after the secure become broken. She then thinks of pushing the automobile right all the way down to liberate the doorways. Sandra is properly privy to the reality that her plans would possibly have consequences. However, she is left without a different preference and makes a decision to go together with it. She grabs the wrench and begins evolved breaking the rock, which become obstructing the tire. After correctly doing away with the rock, Sandra purposely pushes the automobile down the cliff with the infant. Nevertheless, internal as the automobile is thrown into the air, its constructed in AI begins evolve to feature and at once realizes that the automobile is falling from atop. The functions of the automobile get to paintings and shift its balance, analyzing the gravitational strain to fall upright without inflicting any damage to David, considering the automobile become designed to deactivate the vault on the time of an twist of fate to permit the rescuers come with inside the doorway sooner or later open as quickly as the automobile moves the floor. Sandra climbs down the cliff and methods it regardless of the devastating fall. The automobile seems as though a person simply located it there. Locating the locked door open, Sandra hurriedly takes David out of the automobile and opens his garments to assist him cool down. Seeing David's vulnerable fitness circumstance, Sandra resolves to get out of the region as quickly as feasible. Earlier than Sandra receives with inside the vehicle to pressure the entire device receives restarted with the assist of Lilith. Sandra units the automobile into severe off-avenue mode and begins evolved mountaineering the cliff in the front of her. The automobile seems to be made for extremely severe situations and without problems receives beyond the steep cliff miraculously. Sandra reaches the off-avenue she selected and heads for the clinic. With inside the very last scene of the film, we see Sandra and David arriving on the clinic. David is saved at the clinic mattress beside Sandra and is hooked up with multiple tubes. Sandra appears concerned about till he opens his eyes and calls her mommy for the primary time. The film ends as Sandra is extremely joyful with the aid of using her son calling her out. Little did Sandra now David become speaking to the automobile. Subscribe for greater films like this. Activate notifications and go away. I want to assist the channel out. Thanks for